For this evening. We have Ms. Melinda Landry. She's the coordinator of sustainability here in Prince William County Schools. So we're happy to have her. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. As Ms. Boyd said, my name is Melinda Landry. I am in the Office of Energy and Sustainability that is found in the Prince William County Schools Facilities Department. My specific job is education and outreach, connection to community partners, and developing the environmental literacy of our students. In honor of America Recycles Day, which is tomorrow, we're going to be learning a little more about how we can all be a part of what we call the eco solution, how we can contribute to sustainability, specifically environmental sustainability in Prince William County. Usually, when we're talking about taking care of the environment, most people think of those 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. We think of those chasing arrows signs that are on bottles and other packages. But I'm going to tell you today that it's a whole lot more than just the 3 R's. As you saw in the title of this presentation, we're going to be looking at things like rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, regift, and recycle. You aren't the only ones doing these. Manufacturers are also participating in reducing their waste stream by completing all of these different tasks. We're going to start today with some of the first one that you see on there, which is rethink. Rethink means, how can we as consumers, people who are buying things and using things, how can we think about our daily actions, our daily decisions, and how they affect our local and our global environment? In other words, are we choosing to purchase things that may be not as environmentally friendly as others? What actually is important to you? Are you only choosing daily decisions that follows along with your values? Do you value a greener and cleaner environment? Do you value saving money? Do you value sustainability for Prince William County and our world? So I will tell you that as we're thinking about this today, rethinking when we are carrying out daily decisions, whether it be things we're purchasing or things we're throwing away, it all begins with you. But because this is about our schools, I'm going to challenge you that each of the decisions that you make are also going to influence how your children grow up, because we all know that children are the great mimics of the world. In other words, they love to be like their parents. And so when they watch you, they're going to model their behaviors after yours. So one of the ways that you can rethink the way you are approaching sustainability in our daily lives is to refuse. In other words, choose not to do something. I refuse to buy single-use water bottles. Single-use water bottles cost a lot of money, and it's estimated that you can have the same amount of water for the cost of about 3 cents compared to the cost of a bottle of single-use refillable bottles. I mean, seriously, what would happen if you didn't buy them? It's not just water bottles, though. It could be anything that you're purchasing that perhaps we don't need, or that there are sustainable options for them. I will tell you that if we refuse things that we don't need, or put off purchases for as long as possible, like for instance, do we need that latest version of technology? Or could we stick it out with our current version for a few more years? Buying less saves us money, and it does less harm to the environment. And again, keep in mind that every action you're taking is influencing how your children will grow up and the behaviors that they have. So under refuse, we're asking you to think before you buy or think before you act. Refuse to throw things on the ground. Refuse to let food waste in your refrigerator. Buy only those things that you know that you're going to need now. So rethinking really has to do with making a decision about what kinds of actions are you going to take before you buy or before you act. Another way that you can rethink is to reduce. In other words, buy less or use less. I was shocked when I saw bananas on a styrofoam tray wrapped in plastic in a grocery store. I mean, doesn't a banana already have a covering on it? Isn't it easy to purchase with just the peel? It's amazing that we feel like this is an acceptable version of buying bananas. So check for items that have less packaging. I mean, this one is kind of crazy, but there are all sorts of other packages that are huge packages with lots and lots of layers with only a small little item inside. Can we choose things that have less or no packaging? In addition to that, we can reduce what we throw away. Figure out what we can take that we would typically throw away and how can we donate it or sell it or some of the other things that we're going to be seeing in just a moment, like reusing. Now, keep in mind, as we're purchasing these things, as we're using these things, as we're getting rid of these things, all of your decisions will influence how your children grow up as well and the behaviors that they're going to take. Don't be one of those people who buys a banana wrapped in a styrofoam tray. They're not recyclable anywhere in Northern Virginia. Styrofoam always has to be thrown away. So I mentioned the word reuse. Does anyone recognize what these things are? They're food jars. Yeah, can you see them now? All sorts of jars that are hard to recycle. We can't put glass jars in our recycling bins at the schools or at your houses in Prince William County. They don't collect them in single stream recycling. You can take them to the landfill to one of those purple bins that's there, but we can't put them in our recycling bin. So glass jars are the perfect thing to use for upcycling. Upcycling means taking something and turning it into something usable. And here we've got these jars that have old knobs that you might find in a drawer or find in a garage sale or at Habitat Restore or at Goodwill. And you can create these usable, reusable jars and use them for different things instead of going out and purchasing them. I think they look pretty cool. You can also reuse by buying things from thrift stores. Thrift stores are places where you're going to go and donate items like Salvation Army or Goodwill or any of a number of other charitable thrift stores where they take used items and they'll resell them. That's a really great way to be an eco-friendly shopper because we're buying something that somebody else has discarded or gotten rid of. And again, can I mention that your children are watching you and they're going to model the behaviors that you use? Going to thrift stores is a cool thing. Lots of people love to go on those treasure hunts and look for things that other people said that they had no use for anymore. I was so thankful when I go into Goodwills that people took the time to donate those items to the thrift shop. So anytime possible, reuse. I remember my grandmother used to and my mother used to wash Ziploc bags and reuse them. It's a great way of making sure that we're not using something for just a little bit of time and then throwing it away. Speaking of throwing it away, it's sometimes hard to fix things that are broken. repairing is one really good way of avoiding purchasing new. Can you try and fix something before you get rid of it? I will tell you that recently I was able to look up on YouTube how I could repair my washing machine. I didn't know how to repair the little rubber gasket, the little thing inside the opening, because it had popped off and I couldn't figure out how to put it back on. To save me money from a repairman and to also make sure that I understood how to make sure that my washing machine was working well, I went to YouTube and found a video. I've done that a lot of times for a blender that didn't work, and I was able to fix it by looking at YouTube videos. If you're not handy, though, with a lot of tools, and a lot of us aren't handy, you can actually look out for annual events that happen in Prince William County. For instance, Prince William County Library System just hosted a Repair Cafe Expo. It was an event that was held in October where people could sign up and bring in whatever machines or objects that they had. And they had people who were gifted and talented in doing repairs there that would make those repairs for you for free. They've also hosted a clothing repair event that happened in September. So be on the lookout for these repair cafes or repair fairs that happen across Prince William County. They do happen quite often over the course of the year. And again, I'm going to tell you that if you are in the habit of repairing, you're probably also in the habit of teaching your children how to repair. What an amazing skill you can teach them. Not only does it allow us to save money, but it also allows us to save materials. We purchase less, and our impact on the environment is then also less. So I encourage you, become an amateur repair artist and look at some of those great YouTube videos to help you fix things that might be in your home. Another way that we can buy less is to regift. I know that Ms. Boyd loved this one. You should never feel guilty about regifting. We're coming into a season of gift giving, and there is nothing wrong with looking around your house and finding something that you know that other people might enjoy. I was just telling Miss Boyd about this little item. This is a glass watering device. It's blown glass. It's so pretty, but I have no use for it anymore. So this holiday, I'm going to be taking this and adding it to a plant, putting on a little bow, and regifting this to one of my friends. There is some etiquette like generally agreed upon rules when you are regifting. Number one, make sure that you're not just getting rid of it and it would be something that they would enjoy. All right. Number two, would it be something you might buy for them if you needed to buy it? So in other words, it should be something good enough that you might find it in a store and that you would go and buy for them if you needed to. Number three, is it new or like new? Well, I think that glass like this is always like new. There's no scratches or anything like that. There's no chips on this. And so it's going to be beautiful in a plant. And it's going to look just like new. And then finally, never gift a family heirloom. Those treasured memories, they should be kept by you and passed on to your children if possible, or at least take photos of them so that you can keep records of them. And I'm going to tell you, if you get in the habit of finding those beautiful things that you might have in your own home that maybe you don't need anymore, but somebody else in your life would love, people are going to be watching, especially your children, and they'll learn about the appropriate etiquette of regifting. I love it. It's fun. All right. We tend to think of, when we're looking at ways to help the environment, that recycling is the only way it is. But I will tell you, notice that recycling was the last one on my list. Did you see all those others? Those were all ways to use something over and over and over again. But once we get to recycling, now we're going to need to add energy and more materials in order to turn something into a new product. Because recycling is not just taking the object and then immediately turning it into something new. We need energy, we need a manufacturing facility to melt it down and to turn it back into something new. Or for paper, to chip it up, put it in water, and then make new paper out of it. So recycling is the last one that we should be thinking of. We should always think about the other ones first. Recycling will put those items back into the waste stream. In other words, they're going to go back into the trash, what we're getting rid of. But instead of going into a landfill where we bury it in the ground, or an incinerator, which is a place where we burn trash and turn it into energy, recycling puts it back to be used for something else again. For instance, recycled water bottles can be turned into fleece clothing, or it can be turned into plastic toys or benches for outdoors. So those are all different things that we could use recycled products for. Again, this requires more energy, it requires an input of money, and it requires a lot more time than the other choices that I mentioned. And again, there's those little people in your home that are watching you. Are you recycling? Are you trying to follow and make sure that you are recycling more than you're throwing away? And keep in mind that what's accepted for recycling usually depends on a market system. In other words, who is buying it? We have to have someone who will buy the recycled paper or cardboard or buy the recycled plastic. And it also depends on our local government. So what we put into our bin matters just as much. So the rest of my presentation is going to be talking a lot more about this last R, which is recycling. I love it because, again, tomorrow is America Recycles Day. So I'm going to try and convince you why you should recycle in Prince William County. Number one, it is great for our economy. Not only does it save landfill space that you'll see at the bottom where it conserves landfill space. Landfills are expensive. Millions of dollars goes into putting trash into a landfill. And by making that landfill space last longer, we're saving our county money. And where does our county get money from? It gets the money from us. So it's good for our economy also because we're not having to have all of those machines to transport it and into the landfill. It creates jobs. There's a whole industry that's out there for recycling. We have many companies that run recycling programs. It saves energy. I mentioned that in order to recycle things, we do need energy, but if you had to make it from scratch, in other words, if you had to make it from original materials instead of recycled materials, those original materials, like using petroleum or oil to make plastic, that takes much more energy than recycling plastic would. It also takes less water because a lot of the products require water in order to make them. Recycling also reduces air pollution. And by the way, it's actually the law here in Prince William County. It's mandatory. Everyone, including businesses, are required to recycle in Prince William County. So it's the law. The picture that you see in this slide is of an object in Neabsco River called the bandalong. Bandalong. And it is a contraption. It's a machine that floats on the surface of the river and it traps floating plastic. Can you see what's in that picture? What is a lot of it made of? It's made of plastic. You see the balls and the water bottles? the number one object that's removed from the Bandalong in Neabsco River are single-use water bottles because they float. And so they're able to collect them regularly and then take those objects to be recycled. But it takes a lot of money and time for us to do that. Better to make sure that we are careful and not letting that plastic litter Prince William County, in other words, become trash on the ground, and also make sure that we find ways to either recycle it or, before we even recycle it, reduce our use of those things. I mentioned the landfill. And so you'll see in the picture at the top and the bottom, these are pictures of Prince William County landfill. So let's start first with, how much trash does Prince William County Schools throws away? On average, we have 1 pound of trash per student per day thrown away by Prince William County Schools. We are the #1 trash source in Prince William County. In other words, we make more than anybody else. So that's over 90,000 pounds of trash every day. Can we all agree that that's a lot? We can do better. I'm going to point out one, and that's that cafeteria and kitchen creates about 50 to 60%, and the rest comes from classrooms and offices. This is why here in Prince William County Schools, we're beginning a program where we are starting to compost in several schools. And in fact, this year, we will be composting at 12 schools. So if you remember in the title of the presentation, I included another R, and that R was rot, because that's what composting is. We're taking yard waste or food scraps, and we're turning it into nutrient-rich soil additives that we can use in our gardens and reduce the amount of food waste that goes to the landfill. I wanted to mention that I have a guest here with me today from my office, and her name is Alita Deans. So Alita, do you want to say hi and tell them a little bit about what you do for Prince William County Schools?
Hi, sure. I would love to. My name is Alita Deans, and I am a sustainability education coordinator with in Melinda's office. And I specialize in the waste reduction and recycling. So I'm responsible for getting all of our schools recycling bins. So they get a bin for every classroom and in common shared spaces such as offices and also in cafeterias. And I also manage the compost program. So those 12 schools that Melinda mentioned are working with me to make sure that they're composting correctly. So my goal is to reduce the amount of trash that's thrown away every day by diverting it by recycling or composting. So that 1 pound of trash per student per day, I would love to see that number reduce every single year and get it as low as we possibly can, because so much of what gets thrown away in schools is recyclable, such as all the paper that gets used, as well as plastic bottles.
Yeah. So Alita gave me some data, and she found that 70 to 75% of what gets thrown away could actually be diverted or sent from the landfill to someplace else, like recycling. So we can do better. About 35% of our waste gets recycled in Prince William County, but only about 29% of our waste in Prince William County schools gets recycled. We can do better. The mandated minimum, in other words, what's required by law in Virginia, is 25%. And we've had no real change in the rate of our recycling going to our landfill. In other words, we're not doing any better, but we can. About 6% of our waste here in Prince William County is burned in Fairfax County and turned into energy. So they turn it into electricity. But during that burning process, that also produces pollution and some hazardous waste materials. So it's always better to reduce the amount of materials that are thrown away. I'm talking about recycling, but don't forget about those other R's of reducing and refusing and reusing and regifting, all of those things. It's expected that right now, our landfill here in Prince William County is expected to reach the capacity in 2065. Now, that seems like a long time from now, but think about it. We're only looking at 40 years from now, no more space in our landfill. So your children will be grown up and here during a time when there will be no space left in our landfill. So where will our trash go? The answer is for us to do a better job of recycling, not only in our schools, but also in your homes. And we can do better. So let's play a little game and see if you know where the objects should go, because this is going to help us understand what we should be recycling and what we shouldn't. So if you feel like it, you can put your answers in the chat or you can call them out. It's up to you to participate and tell me where things should go. All right, so our first one is a single-use plastic water bottle. Should it go in the trash, in recycling, or someplace else? Let's see, I see some answers. Excellent, we have some recycle, recycle, recycle. Let's see if you're right. And it does, it goes in the recycling bin, good job. So yes, plastic water bottles should always be recycled, but they need to be empty and mostly dry, okay? Empty and dry. This also counts for things like Gatorade bottles or other plastic soda bottles. But the key here is they need to be empty and dry. You can leave the caps on, but they need to be empty and dry. All right, let's try this one. An aluminum can. What do you think? I see some answers. Again, you can put your answer in the chat if you'd like. Make a guess. Should it go in the trash, recycling, or something else? Okay, let's see. Aluminum cans go in the recycling bin. Yes, and it's really cool. On average, well, I should say here in Prince William County, an aluminum can be turned into another can within 22 days. That's the fastest it could happen. But imagine that a can in your recycling bin gets recycled, taken to one of our waste recycling companies called American Disposal. They sell it to a company where they melt it down and turn it into another can, and it's immediately shipped back to maybe Coca-Cola or Pepsi or some other company. And within 20-something days, it could be turned into another can. That's really cool. And one other cool thing about aluminum cans is that they can be recycled forever. They never can have to be turned into something else. They can be turned into an aluminum can over and over and over again. Oh, excellent. All right, what about this? These are called ink cartridges. So they go in printers. You might have them at home or in your office. Ink cartridges, should they go in the trash, in the recycling, or something else? I see a lot of you saying recycle or something else. This is why we're talking about it. So for ink cartridges, those should be something else, because ink cartridges are actually going to be reused. You should not put them in your trash can or in your recycling. There are a lot of companies like Staples or Office Depot or many other offices around Prince William County that collect these ink cartridges and they get money for them. They send them back to the companies and the companies can refill them. It's really cool. There's so much material inside of an ink cartridge like this, that if we reuse them by giving them to these companies to refill again, it saves so much money. You can buy one that's less expensive because it's been reused. And all of those metals and plastics are in there. We don't have to worry about them being thrown away. We get to reuse them and make it another ink cartridge again. So look at around you that if you have a printer in your office or at home, there are places around Prince William County that will take your ink cartridges, save them up, and then go take them to them. They oftentimes have reward programs where if you turn them in, you register for rewards at that company and they'll give you money off of your purchases. So see, reusing can save you money. All right, how about this one? These are styrofoam packing peanuts, the little things that you might find in a box. Should that be thrown away, recycled, or something else? And if you were listening to me earlier, you know the answer to this one. What do you think? Trash, recycling, or something else? Oh, we've got a lot of guesses coming in, and you are right. It is trash. There is no place anywhere near us within 200 miles that would recycle styrofoam. All styrofoam is thrown away. One of the things that you could do with it, if you don't throw it away, is to reuse it. And so if you can come up with projects or art craft projects with your kids, or you save them and reuse them in your own packaging, that's so much better. All right. So think about when you're buying things, do they use styrofoam to package it? Or do they use paper that you could then either recycle or reuse? So really cool. All right. How about this one? Plastic bags that you might get at a grocery store or other store. Should that be in the trash, in your recycling bin, or something else? What do we think? I see some recycle. I see some something else. Recycle, okay. Which one do you think? This one always surprises people, always. Single-use plastic bags should never go in your recycling bin because it clogs up the machine. One thing you can do is you can take them to a grocery store or other store that collects them, but they should never be put into your recycling bin because it will cause all of that recycling to get thrown out, or it could cause the machines at the recycling factory to be shut down while they have to clean out all of the little teeth that are used in the sorting process. So there's a machine that has all these little metal fingers and the plastic bags get tangled in them and it shuts down the machine, which is dangerous for the workers and it takes away money from the company. So never ever put plastic bags in your recycling bin. Take them back to a supermarket or to a place like Target or Walmart where they have collections. They often turn plastic bags into things like deck material for your balcony or your back patio, or they might turn it into benches or turn it into toys and other things like that. So if I can tell you one thing, don't put plastic bags into your recycling bin. How about this one? This is also surprising to people. How about things like milk cartons like that? Or you might even have juice in a container like this, where it's a cardboard container with a little screw-on cap. Should that be in the trash, in recycling, or in something else? What do you think? The people who have answered, I know it's so hard, it's recycling. So if you have protein drinks that are like that, or you've got chicken broth that's in one of those containers, or anything else that's in a cardboard container with a screw on top like that, you can put that in your recycling bin. They're super easy to recycle, so please do that. Oh, pizza boxes. Should that go in the trash, the recycling bin, or something else? Yes, yes, you guys are great. So you should throw it away. However, the person, Nicole in here, who said recycle is also right. Because what can we do? We can rip off the top and put the top that doesn't have any food on it in the recycling bin, and then just put the greasy paper on the bottom into the trash can. So, trick question, you're both right. Just make sure that you rip apart the pizza box and put the greasy part in the trash and the clean part in the recycling bin. Ooh, how about this? We just had Halloween and there was all sorts of trick-or-treaters going out with their individually wrapped candy. Where should this go? Trash, recycling, or something else? You are right. It's trash. All food packaging like that should always be thrown away, including things like potato chip bags or things like that. All right. Maybe you've got some electronic equipment, some machine at your house. So this one is a printer, but it could be anything. It could be an old telephone, it could be an old computer or an old cell phone, or it could be anything like that that's a machine. You could have refrigerators or old ovens. Where would this go? In the trash, recycling, or something else? You're right. It's something else. There are places at the landfill where you can take electronics to be recycled. They take those twice a week, but there's also many companies that will take your old electronics and they will repurpose them or they will reuse them. They will take parts out of them and use them for new machines. And so really great to not put these in the landfill. By the way, if it's still working, where could you take it if you don't want it anymore? We already talked about this before. If it's still working, where could you take it? Any ideas? Donate it. That's exactly. Donate it so somebody else could have it. Exactly. Perfect. All right. How about this one? It's a black plastic takeout container. And I will tell you that there's a little clue on the top and it has the number 5. Number 5 on the top, and it's black plastic. Oh, what happened? Oh, it went away. Hold on. Let me go back. Okay, there it is. All right, where should we do with it? A lot of people say recycle, and the answer is no, trash. No black plastic is ever recycled. They cannot recycle it. And the number 5 on top can't be recycled here in Prince William County. We can only recycle plastics 1 and plastics 2. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. All right, we're coming down to the last of our, can it be recycled or thrown away or something else? This is paper. This should be something easy, right? Paper? Number 1 item in schools in the past? Yes, you're right. Recycle. Paper is so easy to turn in other paper. So easy. All right. What about this one? Batteries. Batteries. You're right. Something else. You can take batteries to the landfill twice a week. They have a hazardous waste place where they will take the batteries. There are materials that are in those batteries that, you know, if 1 or 2 get thrown away, it's not a problem. But when we've got, you know, thousands and thousands of people in Prince William County and they all throw away their batteries, it's bad for the water underneath the ground of the landfill. And so we want to make sure that we can do our best with getting rid of them. And you can take them to a lot of stores that will also take batteries back. At school, a school can ask for a battery pickup. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can donate these at places or you can take them to the landfill. All right, you guys did great. So What can be recycled at schools? I'm going to make it really simple and tell you that at schools, we can recycle cardboard. We can recycle any kind of metal cans. We can recycle paper. We can recycle plastics, one, which are things like water bottles or soda bottles. And we can recycle plastics, two, which are like milk jugs or orange juice containers or juice containers or like laundry soap bottles, those kinds of things. So the only plastics that we can recycle are ones and twos. Those are the two types of plastic. A lot of people think that just because it has the little recycling arrow on it, that that means that it can be recycled. But do you know who put that on the bottles? It was the Plastic Manufacturers Association. And they put it on there as a marketing tool. In other words, they're trying to tell people this is a great object and it can be recycled. But most places don't recycle all plastics. Most places only recycle plastics 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Oh, that's a good point. Yes, I can give you the address in just a moment. So there are at the landfill, at their offices, and also on their website, a list of what you can and cannot recycle. And so if you look at and do a Google search of Prince William County landfill, they have listings of all the things that you can and can't put in there. No, a lot of people think things like plastic silverware. Well, it's plastic. It can go in the recycling bin, but it's not plastic 1 or 2. And then second, it gets broken up in the recycling teeth. Remember the place that has in the recycling plant that sorts everything, those plastic things get caught in there. So, and again, we can recycle glass, but you need to do it at a place that takes it, and that's not in your at schools, and it's not in your recycling bins from your house. You have to take it to the landfill. So when we put things in our recycling bin that can't be recycled, but we think it should be, we call that wish cycling. Not recycling, but wish cycling. I wish it could be recycled, so let me put it in here and maybe it will be. That's not the way to recycle. It is always better that when in doubt, if you're not sure, when in doubt, throw it out, because it's always better to have clean, well-sorted recycling instead of recycling filled with all kinds of trash. Because as we put all of this other stuff in the recycling system, it does more harm than good. It makes the recycling worth less money. And so we have less people that would be willing to buy that recycled material. So you can get this magnet. There's a magnet that you can get that will help you figure out what's acceptable to recycle. And on the Prince William County landfill site, they do have information in both English and in Spanish. So I mentioned this before, and that is that tomorrow is America Recycles Day. And America Recycles Day is a time for everyone to pledge that we're going to do better and recycle more. And so this is from the Washington region. That's, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia region. And we're all teaming together through America Recycles Day to say that we're going to do better at recycling and educating everybody about the environment and why it is good for our environment to recycle. So if you sign the pledge, and I just put the link in the chat, you can be eligible for prizes. There is a $300 gift card to the store called REI, which is an outdoor store. They also have prizes for students and for schools. And it doesn't hurt anything to sign up. All you have to do is put in your contact information, and they send you one single email that says, thank you for signing up. All they do. They don't spam you with a bunch of emails. They send you one email that says, thank you for signing up and pledging to recycle. And it tells you which one of those things will you be willing to do. Are you willing to be a more thoughtful consumer? In other words, are you going to buy things that have recycled content in them? Are you going to reduce the amount you throw away? Are you going to refuse to buy certain things? In other words, buy less. Are you going to reuse things? Are you going to increase how much you recycle? Or maybe you're going to rot, you know that word, compost more. And so I highly recommend that you sign up for America's Recycles Day, because I would love to hear that the winner was somebody here in Prince William County Schools. I hope you've learned something today and that you understand the ways that you can help make Prince William County more eco-aware. Are you going to be more sustainable? One of the things you can always do is model for your children good recycling behaviors at home. If you're packing lunch or snacks for your kids at school, pack them with minimal or smaller amounts of disposable packaging. In other words, can you not put them in a Ziploc plastic bag that's going to be used and then immediately thrown away? Because that plastic bag is going to exist in our world for 400 years or more. And how long did we use it? For just a few hours. And then I want to encourage the use of refillable water bottles, because every school in Prince William County has water bottle refill stations where students can take their water bottle and put it under there and get filtered water coming out of that refill station. So 3 things. Teach your children at home by modeling those good behaviors. Pack lunches that have not as much packaging, or use reusable packaging. In other words, they take the materials home with them. And then encourage the use of refillable water bottles. All right, so with that, I'm done with my talk. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I hope you've all learned something about how we can be more sustainable environmentally and contribute to making Prince William County an even better place to live.
Thank you so much, Melinda. This was great information for everyone to have. Are there any questions? You're more than welcome to type them in the chat, or you can come off mute. Actually had a question, and I guess it would be for Alita. You mentioned that our students, it's typically like £1 per student. Do you have a goal for how much you want to reduce the waste per student, so to speak?
Excuse me. I don't have a goal in mind. I would love to get that down by half to maybe £0.5 per student per day. I haven't really set any measurable metrics or determined what might be feasible in order to reach a lower goal. And honestly, a school-wide reduction would be great, but if I could see reductions in individual schools, even by just a little bit, just to see a little more waste diverted, I think that would be a wonderful goal.
Perfect, thank you. And Melinda, I know you have points of contacts for individuals that I guess they coordinate the recycling at each school. Is that right?
That's correct. We do have sustainability liaisons that are at schools. They could be anyone from a parent liaison, or they could be one of our FACE staff, or a teacher, or a nurse, or a guidance counselor, or there's so many different people that take on that role. But if you want additional supports, you can reach out to our office, and we'd be happy to work with your school in order to increase that diversion rate. In other words, how much that, reduce the amount that's going to the landfill and increase the amount that's being recycled. There are so many different things that we can do to help with that.
So I would like to say thank you so much to Melinda and for Alita for joining us tonight and giving us this wonderful presentation. We will be posting a survey in the chat. Please take the time to fill it out. Let us know how we're doing, how Melinda did today. And this helps us also for future programming, any additional programming you may want to see. The session was recorded, so I will follow up in an email with the recording of the session, as well as the PowerPoint presentation for tonight, and then contact information for our presenters should you have any questions. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.